It's been a while, but I'm back. Let's get it on. Hello, guys, and welcome to the Cowboy and the Hawk's Nest podcast. Today we will be discussing a whole manner of subjects, the NFL and MLS. Let's get right into it. So it's been about 3 weeks since I last uploaded a podcast episode. And in those 3 weeks, we've had a whole bunch of speculation when it comes to Dak Prescott and his contract situation. But last week, we got some insider information from Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News, saying the Cowboys are prepared to make Dak one of the highest paid players in NFL history. As you will with pretty much every quarterback nowadays, because they all get paid insane amounts of money. But with the exact numbers here, Watkins reports that the Cowboys have reportedly offered a contract in excess of $33 million per year, with $105 million guaranteed. Now, he does not say a time limit for this contract, which is interesting, but all these players are now waiting for the CBA, or collective bargaining agreement, to be agreed upon, and that has a deadline of this Thursday, the 12th of March, which also coincidentally is the deadline for franchise tags also. So the Cowboys and Dak Prescott are in a precarious situation because, if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure I'm correct, that free agency for the NFL is on March 18. Correct. On March 18 is the start of the new calendar year for the NFL. So, gives maybe a week for them to decide on what they want to pay Dak, because I do not see Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones Jr., and Charlotte Jones parting with Dak Prescott. He's been a model of consistency, never missed a game due to injury. And as Stephen A. Smith says, it was back page news when Prescott missed a practice. It's not in him to hold out, but he certainly has the power to say that he's going to hold out. And that scares me a little bit, because I'd pay him, but I'd have to pay him within reason. $33 million, I'd say, is within reason, according to the current market for quarterbacks, where pretty much every single quarterback is overpaid relatively to every other player on the team. But for a man of Dak's skills and Dak's clutch performances in the regular season and in the postseason for a couple of games, he's worth it, especially since he has a good future ahead of him. Now with his coach, it's interesting. The Cowboys hired Mike McCarthy, the coach that Aaron Rodgers himself said his system was antiquated. Now, that's not a good look when you have someone with the talents of Aaron Rodgers saying that about your offensive system. Then again, the Cowboys do have a run-centered offense, which in these days is considered antiquated. So could be a good fit. So I think the run-first option will definitely benefit the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy a whole lot better than a pass-centric one. Another thing that's happened for those people listening in Seattle, 3 weeks ago, Greg Olsen, the former tight end from Carolina, was signed. Russell Wilson is happier than a motherfucker. He finally has a tight end, a legit tight end number one. No offense to Jacob Hollister or Luke Wilson, but Greg Olsen is 2 stories above those two. Now, Will Dissly, if he comes back healthy, he should be on Greg Olsen's level. Will Dissly is a very, very, very good tight end from what I have seen of him when he was healthy against Pittsburgh, and I think there was one other team. I don't know it off the top of my head. With a deal worth $7 million with $5.5 guaranteed for 1 year. That is appropriate spending. Good job, John Snyder and Pete Carroll. And now to the less popular sport in America, football, or as Americans say it, soccer. Cheers to all the British people listening. The Seattle Sounders have played 2 games so far. Season opener where all the pomp and circumstance was presented, with the unveiling of the championship banner and carrying the MLS Cup trophy into the stadium for the season opener, led out by the then injured Gustav Svensson and Nicolas Ladero. The game went okay. It was, at least from the beginning. The Sounders were playing from behind, but that's because they didn't have Svensson and Ladero in the starting lineup. But they picked up a little someone named João Paulo, a Brazilian midfielder who is going to light MLS up with his passing ability and his counterattacks. And to complement that with Nicolas Ladero, the best number 10 in the league. Screw Carlos Vela from LAFC. He's not a number 10, meaning facilitating everyone kind of midfielder. Now, he's a right wing, not a cam. Nicolas Ladero is the best number 10 in MLS, undisputed. To put Nicolas Ladero with João Paulo, Jordan Morris on the wings, and Raul Rui Diaz, a true number 9. This attack is going to be lethal. All the Sounders need is to coach the defense, and they lost some key personnel. Key personnel in the center back department. Specifically with Chad Marshall retiring in the middle of last season and Roman Torres going to Miami. And Kim Hee not on the team anymore. So we're filling it in with Arriaga, and starting for the Sounders for their home opener was Shane O'Neill. They did not have a particularly good game. They didn't show anything special. or that they were average to upper tier center backs. Thank goodness that Shane O'Neill is going to be replaced with Yamar Andrade, a center back from Central America. He's a big boy. He's 6'2". He should be heading in the ball on corners and being a monster in defense. Our wingers with Kevin Leardam and Jovan Jones are perfect. And we have literally the best goalie in MLS. No one can dispute it. In Stefan Fry, big number 24. He won't give you clean sheets every game, but he will make saves when it counts the most. Check the 2016 MLS Cup and the 2019 MLS Cup. Fantastic saves. MVP, hell, European level saves in those MLS Cups. But what struck me the most is how powerful Seattle fans are. How active Seattle sports fans are. How willing Seattle sports fans are to go watch their teams. Because if you didn't know, there's a virus called COVID-19, or commonly referred to as the coronavirus. Time to put limes in them glasses. In Seattle and the metropolitan area of the Puget Sound, people have been panic buying toilet paper, canned food, and anything else because they're panicking over the coronavirus. But there were so many people still at the game and at the fan bars watching a Columbus Crew game, which we'll still have to talk about, and the Chicago game. No one gave a damn about the coronavirus because Seattle loves their sports teams no matter what. They will show. Now to this Columbus Crew game. It ended up 1-1 in a tie. But it probably shouldn't have. I watched these highlights, these extended highlights from the Sounders, and there was one chance featuring Miguel Ibarra. By the way, another great pickup for the Sounders. The refs called him offsides. Now, granted, I would need to see another angle of this offsides because from the highlights, they didn't show a very good angle. But it looked like he was onside. Ibarra, for the past 2 games, has got to be the sickest man in the MLS. He probably could have had 3 goal-scoring opportunities against Chicago, and now this one against the Columbus Crew. It must be crushing to be Ibarra. Good thing is, we got Svensson back in this Columbus Crew game, but we should be getting Nicolas Ladero in a couple of weeks. And as soon as we get Nicolas Ladero back, oh boy, MLS better be on the fucking lookout. Because Seattle is coming for all of the other teams' necks. And we will be slashing. We will be slashing goals left and right. With João Paulo and Nicolas Ladero passing out to the speed of Raul Ruidiaz and Jordan Morris. Now we got to go back to the NFL. The Combine happened a couple weeks ago. And for the Seahawks, there are a couple positions that need looked out for. specifically offensive line. Now, sure, John Snyder's going to do what he's always done and trade back for picks. So you'll get 9 picks from rounds 3 to 7, most likely, because he'll work his magic. But you guys better get quality prospects and offensive line prospects, not defensive ends or defensive tackles that are converted to offensive linemen, because it doesn't work. Why don't you just get offensive linemen who have trained their whole lives to be offensive linemen and draft them to play at offensive line? I'm not dogging on Pete Carroll and his system of coaching, but damn, Russell Wilson can't be running for his life every single game. You paid way too much to Russell Wilson for that to happen. And you also need some edge rushers because Jadeveon Clowney is a free agent. And I'm pretty sure you guys can't keep him. Even though Clowney, from what I can see, loves playing here in Seattle, I don't think you're going to offer him enough money for him to stay. For edge rushing prospects, there's no way you're getting Young. Chase Young is going top 4. The first 2 are going to be most likely quarterbacks, with the Bengals getting Joe Burrow, who's more of a enticing prospect for quarterback than Tua, because he's had a clean injury history. So I think Chase Young is going to fall to either the Lions or the Giants. And I'm praying it's not the Giants, but it might be looking like the Lions need another cornerback because Darius Slay is probably not going to stay. So what you're probably going to end up doing is trading back and probably getting Terrell Lewis from Alabama or Zach Bond from Wisconsin. Something along those lines. Now for offensive linemen, there's no way you're trading up. So if you could possibly get good prospects, you're going to be looking at Lucas Niang out of TCU, Austin Jackson out of USC, or Sadiq Charles out of LSU. Now for the Cowboys, this becomes a whole different ballgame because we could possibly be losing Byron Jones. We're not going to be moving back with our first round draft pick. So we're either going to get, well, first of all, our primary needs are cornerback, safety, or interior defensive line. Now for cornerbacks, Jeffrey Okudah is really the best, but there's no way he's going to fall out of the top 4. So we'll probably be getting C.J. Henderson out of Florida. Or if we want to go safety, we could possibly get Xavier McKinney out of Alabama or Grant Delpit out of LSU. And if we want to go interior defensive line, we could possibly get Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina, Raekwon Davis out of Alabama, or Ross Blacklock out of TCU. But I'd prefer to go with cornerback because not that we have safety locked up, because we have Xavier Woods and Jeff Heath, who aren't bad, but they're not the best out there. I'd prefer to go at cornerback, drafting C.J. Henderson, or possibly moving up and getting Christian Fulton from LSU. It would be a miracle to get Jeffrey Okudah. Then we got some secondary needs. For Seattle, secondary needs are linebacker, possibly. I don't see that as a weakness because you're gonna keep both Wagner and KJ Wright. Those two just aren't going. And you'll have Will Barton locked up for a while, so he'll be starting too. So really nothing to point a finger at. And for Dallas, it says edge rushers and wide receiver and tight end. I can agree with the tight end, maybe on wide receiver, but even then, we're going to get either Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs III, because CeeDee Lamb is going in like the top 10. As far as tight ends go, there aren't this class really isn't too much to shake your head at. So I'd stay with what you have at tight end. And we don't need anything for offensive line unless you want to gather depth, which is always good. Don't have a whole lot of prospects in this draft though. Now back to MLS though, because I got to give my predictions. Now, of course, it'd be cheap to go with last year's group in the MLS Cup Finals with Toronto and Seattle. But let's go all throughout the Eastern Conference first. Atlanta United, they're a good team, but they just lost their main player, and Josef Martinez, to an ACL, so he's done for the season. I'm not sure if Atlanta can overcome Josef Martinez not being in the lineup. They got good pieces, but Martinez kept it all together. The Red Bulls, for the last couple of years, the Red Bulls have been nothing to talk about. The Impact have a real shot, and Toronto FC, they're competitive every year. The Columbus Crew look good too. I'm completely discounting DC United because Wayne Rooney is out. There is just off the lineup. So I have absolutely no hope with DC United. And Chicago really just let Seattle back into the game in the opener. So I don't really have much faith. And they were attacking on a very subpar defense of Seattle for that first game. New England hasn't been particularly relevant since they had Clint Dempsey. Orlando City looks nice, but they haven't shown it so far. Granted, it's only the second game. Philadelphia really aren't showing me too much. And FC Cincinnati, they're not that great. Inter Miami, the new boys on the block, haven't shown anything. They have one goal in 2 games. Granted, their first game was against LAFC. But you would think you'd have more than one goal in MLS in the first 2 games of the season. And I have absolutely no idea what's happening with NYCFC. That's just terrible. They haven't scored a goal and they've allowed 2. Man. And out of the better side of the bracket, the Western Conference. The new boys on the block, Nashville FC, they haven't won a game. Granted, they've played some pretty stiff competition. But you would have thought by now, in the second game, they're just coming back. You would have shown at least a little bit more. Houston Dynamo, they had some chances against the LA Galaxy, who are nothing to shake their head at, especially with Chicharito, Javier Hernandez joining. Will open up a little more possibilities for the Galaxy. San Jose got absolutely trampled this past week, losing 5-2 against Minnesota. They haven't been relevant since Landon Donovan was on their team. Real Salt Lake, you can watch out for them. They're a very solid team. Granted, they lost their goalkeeper, who is probably one of the best the MLS has ever seen, but not the best. Vancouver looked really nice. They're okay. Portland sucks, as always. LAFC aren't doing too bad. They've won one game and they just drew with the Philadelphia Union, who aren't doing particularly great. But don't count them out at all. There's Seattle, who's 5th right now after 2 games. But that's 100% going to change with our lineup. FC Dallas, they're pretty good. Colorado, expect them to decline a whole lot, because they haven't played anyone in these first 2 games worth mentioning. And they've been at the bottom of the barrel of the Western Conference for who knows how long. Minnesota. If LAFC doesn't make it to the Western Conference Finals, Minnesota will. Minnesota is going to be in the Western Conference Finals. Sporting Kansas City, they're real. Don't count them out whatsoever. But I think they're going to go out in the semis. So my prediction is going to be Seattle Sounders and Minnesota United for the Western Conference Finals, and Toronto FC and the Montreal Impact in the Eastern Conference, with Seattle beating Minnesota by a slim margin, and then Toronto going back to the MLS Cup against the Sounders for a second year in a row, and for a 4th time in 5 years. So I am taking that last year's MLS Cup, because Toronto FC somehow, some way, finds a way, by hook or by crook, to keep themselves in every single playoff game that they are in. And Seattle is going to do it by getting hot in the last part of the season. Seattle's going to get more points than Toronto, so they are going to get home field advantage for MLS Cup, and will have a second MLS Cup in a row in CenturyLink Field, where the ECS, Gorilla FC, Dryside supporters, and Anchor and Rose 48s are gonna fill the stadium, create ruckus, and help lead Nicolas Ladero, Jordan Morris, Miguel Ibarra, João Paulo, Raul Rui Diaz, Christian Roldan, Kevin Leardam, Jovan Jones, Yamar Gonzalez Andrade, and the best goalkeeper to ever grace the MLS, Stefan Fry, to a second MLS Cup. And boy, will it be nice. Thank you for listening to the Cowboy in the Hawk's Nest podcast. And always remember, go Hawks. How about them Cowboys? And born in 1974, Sounders. And now we win like never before, Sounders. We love our boys in the famous green, the greatest team that you've ever seen, the Seattle Sounders, born in 74. Have a great day.